My Candy Love: How an Otome game company destroyed its own fanbase by AGK720. I've been a lurker here for a long time and thought I should finally contribute my own slice of niche drama to the subreddit. This is about some major drama that happened in 2018 with the game My Candy Love, MCL, and the ramifications that still affect the game and the fanbase to this day. I haven't been an active player since this all took place, but I still occasionally pop in the forums of MCL to see what's been going on. I'll do my best to give a comprehensive summary of what happened and the fallout, but the anger that the players have towards the game and B-Move is something that's come from years of frustration that eventually came to a boil with the transition to university life. It's hard to cover everything, to say the least. If there are any people out there who continue to play the game after I quit or were there before my time, feel free to share any additional info. I'm really curious to see how things developed. A post was made in 2018 by u/Varkanardvark about what happened with the action points AP system that really affected the gameplay. I'm going to try and explain in my post, but they gave a pretty good summary if you want to check it out. So what is My Candy Love? This post is about the Otome game My Candy Love, also known by its original French name, Amour-sucre. The developer and publisher is the French company B-Move, and if that name sounds familiar, it's probably because they've published several other games such as Eldaria and at one point Miss Bimbo. u/Applestorm did a really great write-up on all of the drama that went down with Miss Bimbo, and I recommend checking it out here. MCL has been going since 2011 and currently there are 3 different parts to MCL: High School Life, HSL, University Life, UL, and most recently, Love Life, LL. MCL is an Otome game, meaning the goal of this game is to romance one of several guys as the female player character. Unlike some visual novels/Otome games where you could just buy the game and play through it at your own speed, MCL is much closer in format to mobile Otome games and apps such as Choices, Stories You Play. I would say it's mainly browser-based, but there is also a mobile version. The premise of the original game, HSL, is that you play as a teenage girl, referred to as Candy when talking generally about the main character, who begins attending Sweet Maurice High School. There she meets the guys who are possible love interests, Lee, and the story progresses through 40 episodes, letting the player get to know these characters and follow the drama of Candy's life. If I were to describe the tone of the game, especially in the first 30-ish episodes, I'd say it's a pretty light-hearted story that could be rated a solid PG with some moments that probably raise it a bit above. There are some mature elements involved, like abuse in the case one of the love interests, and a few other heavy subjects such as bullying. On the romance side of things, it was pretty tame. Candy and the Lee don't kiss until episode 28, though there are chances to do so with secondary characters in a few rare moments. The main target audience for this game was young teenage girls, but it also appealed to people outside of that demographic who just enjoyed it for what it was. Plus, as their audience grew up, people continued on with the game. I personally played from 2013 until 2018 as a good chunk of HSL was released. This game is something people have committed years of their life to, waiting for each new chapter to come out. As you can imagine, after 7 years people got pretty attached to these characters. The original game mechanics. In order to play the game you needed to log in consistently to receive action points, AP, and gold that you have to spend to progress through the episodes of the story. In the pre-altered version of the game, more on that later, AP was used to walk around the world in a click-and-point game-style format, trying to find characters you need to talk to. Example game footage here: dialogue was essentially a free action once you tracked the person down. A common method is to log in daily to rack up the AP and gold, and once you have enough, play through a chapter. If you were caught up with the latest chapter, you generally had enough of buffer time to just play through the next one that came out, or at least make a decent dent into it. AP is also used up in special events that reward new clothing items to dress up your candy. And of course, there is option to spend real-world money on both AP and gold. And with the goodwill this game got, people were willing. The point of gold is to buy clothing and story-related items. Clothes have 2 purposes in the game. The first is story progression. The reward for picking the right options throughout the story means getting an illustration at the end of each episode. There are several versions for each chapter, one for each Lee you might have been going after. Your candy appears in the outfit that you needed to buy with gold, a unique one for each Lee. Once you complete an episode, you unlock different colored versions of your outfit and the outfits needed for the other love interests that you can buy in the clothes shop. So what's the appeal? There are a few significant things that I think drew people to MCL. 1. The obvious one is the romance. I think the writing was pretty enjoyable, though the pacing kinda struggled. Not a masterpiece by any means, but fun. There were a lot of cute moments between your candy and the Lees, and I think you really got to know them as characters over the years and cared about where their stories were going. The second reason, a very large one, is that MCL has customizable avatars and a whole ton of clothes to buy and wear. The more you play, the more clothes you unlock, not to mention things that are only available during special events. In the illustrations mentioned before, the look of your candy would change depending on the base avatar's eye color, hair color, and hairstyle chosen. When you first start the game, you're able to choose these, though there isn't much variety. But still, it made it feel like it was your character in these scenes and not just generic stand-in. Wigs in a variety of colors and hairstyles would be released, and these wouldn't do anything to the actual illustrations, but would be seen on your avatar in places like the forums. Alternate skin tones were also released after years of people wanting it, though in HSL this was still only cosmetic and wouldn't change the illustrations. My guess is that it would be too much work for them to go back and alter illustrations. Skin color variation was added in illustrations starting in UL. A third reason is probably the community and the forums. Back in the heyday of the game, things were pretty active on the English version. Going back and looking now, it seems that certain sections are alive and kicking like the games and creative sections, but the rate of posting is a lot less than it used to be. Still, it was a lot of fun to show off your avatars and chat with people. I personally spent a lot of time in the creative arts section, doing art trades with people. The love interests. I don't think an explanation could be complete without talking about the guys you actually get to romance, or not, more on that later. Here are the guys from HSL, their names, links to their wiki pages, and the game's descriptions along with my own notes. Nathaniel is the student body president. He is dependable and easy to get along with. He is responsible, calm and shy. Very sensitive to critiques as he is a perfectionist. His sister Amber is the school bully and your candy is one of her targets. His father is abusive towards him. His mother isn't so great either, as she doesn't stop any of this from happening. Castile can be hard to get along with. It's not easy to talk to him or know what he's thinking, but in reality he must be nice deep down. Behind his bad mood and his personality full of rage, he appreciates retorts and won't hesitate to poke fun. Bad boy. He's also in a band and smokes. Exciting stuff, I know. Lysander has his own style which he's very comfortable with. He's mysterious and isn't very talkative, which doesn't make him easy to get to know. He appreciates honesty and hates to get involved in other people's business. Friends with Castile, he writes down lyrics in his notebook for their art group. So he got hit by a car and got amnesia there for a little while. What was the point of this? No clue, probably just the angsty drama. Don't worry, he got better. Armin is Alexi's twin brother. He is quite nice and is shy. He rarely gets angry, except for certain subjects. Nerdy/geeky guy. Just pick all of the options that have to do with video games references, just make sure you actually know what you're talking about, and you'll probably be pretty good. Has a twin brother named Alexi who's gay and one of Candy's best friends. Ken, his real name is Kentan, has changed quite a bit since his first appearance at Sweet Armories. Even his physique, military school really transformed him. But there still remains part of the real Ken in him. Nerdy character plus military school, glasses equals attractive. They're all a little stereotypical, but I think through all of the episodes they were really expanded upon and given depth. They outgrew what they started out as. The end of high school. About episode 37 is when I'd say the tone of the story starting changing towards what is today. Players didn't know yet that university was happening, but they noticed how rushed the story was becoming. There was no real indication before that this was Candy's final year or how much time had actually passed at the school. Suddenly character arcs were being hastily wrapped up, Candy was taking her final exams, and in episode 37 they decided to suddenly throw in an awkward sex education class. You can get a good overview of people's thoughts from the forum discussion about the episode here. Things were getting very sexual, and it was a massive tone shift from how it all began in episode 1. So as you can imagine, over the course of 7 years and nearly 40 episodes, people got pretty attached to the characters and their particularly. But of course, the story of My Candy Love had to come to a close. Eventually our cast had to graduate and move on to other things. There were a lot of questions in the community over what would happen next. Would MC end for good? The answer was no, and the players rejoiced. Candy would be going on to college and what would become university life. But first, they needed to wrap up high school. That part about this being a generally PG game? Well, B-Move decided that it was time to take things in a more mature direction. After having a very rushed prom with no foreshadowing in episode 39, we reached the conclusion with episode 40. At this point people knew university was coming, and not everybody was thrilled as more details were coming out about it. Still, people were generally excited but dissatisfied with how things were wrapping up. This final episode is when they decided to include a sex scene with Candy's Lee. That choice was controversial one considering how most of the game treated romance up until the final chapters. The reactions in the forums can be read through here. There were people who were completely okay with the sex scene and were happy that the game was moving in this new direction. Other people, not so much. An important thing to note here is that the sex scene was optional, but if you didn't choose it, you wouldn't get the illustration for the episode. There was no other version for people who weren't comfortable with taking the story that way. Because illustrations have been a reward for picking the right answers this entire time, it was like players were being penalized for not choosing for their character to have sex. University life, or how to anger your entire fanbase. The game's transition to university life was the beginning of the end of any goodwill most players had towards B-Move. The idea of Candy going to university and continuing her romance with one of the 5 guys was exciting. The reality of what we got was something else entirely. The first surprise? A time skip, and not a minor one either. It's been 4 years since high school ended. Candy has just returned to her old town after moving away with her parents and has just enrolled in Ontario's Academy. Next, there is a completely new avatar model, meaning the clothing you've been collecting all of those years can be worn into her college life. Luckily, you can decide which avatar you're going to show in the forums, but no new clothing is going to be made for the old model. Showing your old avatar in the forums instead of the new one was a form of protest for people who didn't like the changes of all. The EAP system from before has been completely changed. Instead of spending AP and walking around, you now spend it on every line of dialogue. This might seem better in theory, no longer having to run around finding people, but if you have a long conversation with anyone, your AP gets drained incredibly quickly, much more than the walking version. They also added a cap to how much AP you could collect unless you pay for it with real money. If you want to pay for an episode that costs 2,000 AP, that means spending around $25. A lot of those feelings are expressed here, not to mention buying outfits has gotten much more difficult. During this time B-Move responded very poorly to player concerns though, and I think a QA they did at the time is probably a good place to look. But at least you still get to date the love interest you've invested so much time, and potentially money, into, right? Right? Well, as it turns out, at the beginning of those 4 years having a long-distance relationship was too difficult for Candy and she broke up with her Lee. If you dated Castile or Nathaniel, don't worry. They both appear, though Nathaniel's personality is completely different. He skips class to go boxing at gym, has one-night stands, and is involved with drug dealing and gang activities. What character development? And Castile still has his band, so that's a thing. Get ready to essentially start over with both relationships if you choose their routes. And the other 3 guys? Gone. The rushed ending of HSL, the sex scene, and the off-screen breakup is the end. No, B-Move, or the main creator/writer/designer for the game Shinamiko, doesn't understand why people would be so upset. After all, it's just a game. This is what Shinamiko had to say, that angered a lot of people. She did apologize here, though, but people didn't really accept it. Some of the highlights include her reason for including Castiel and Nathaniel as characters. Why I chose to keep Castiel. Well, let's be honest about that, Castiel has always been the main favorite, and by far. Just like Pokémon, there are thousands of them but Pikachu still remains special. Anyway, if you are good at maths, you'll have noticed that I said we are doing 5 routes, and you only know about 4 so far, so yeah, there is someone I still wish to torture some more to her. And I think he will be my fave for all. Now you get 3 new love interests to choose from. They really wanted to add diversity to the cast of characters which no one had a problem with, but they did it at the expense of removing leads people had years of investment into. Yun works in town as a server at the Cozy Bear CAF. Although at first he may seem like a good boy, that doesn't stop him from liking to party. He is a considerate boy who could become a perfect support system when faced with daily problems. Priya, your old friend from high school's presence is even better than before. Brilliant and determined, Priya is in law school. She is thrilled to find you again, and will always be there to help you out. She may even become more than just a friend. Ryan Zaidi is a modern and contemporary art history professor at Anteros Academy. His way of teaching is both intriguing and destabilizing for the students. Outside of class, he is quite accessible, although he tries to hide his tortured nature. And yes, you read that third bio correctly. Ryan is your art history professor in L and he hits on you even though you're his student. I know opinions differ on this type of relationship, but the way he is written has people calling him creepy, from all different sides of the issue. The fallout. I think it's an understatement to say that people were angry. There were demands to bring the 3 missing guys back and to make adjustments to the AP system, but it basically all went unheard. With so many people's incentive to stay and play out the storyline of their guy from HSL gone, people just left. I was one of them, even though my Lee Nathaniel was still in the game. The way the story was going, along with the new AP system, it convinced me it was time to quit. I got through episode 1, found out what happened with the old cast, and was done. It's incredibly hard to place a number on it, but it was a noticeable effect on the website traffic. The vibrant and excited forums died off. To this day, 2 years later, it's very hard to find a forum topic about the EMCL that doesn't include anger towards B-Move, the state of the game, or people frustrated that their Lee from HSL is still not there. In a QA from 2018, B-Move runs down a lot of the concerns players had that remain today. They claimed at the time that the player base only increased with all of this stuff happening and there's no way to know if that's true or not. Things settled into a very antagonist relationship between B-Move and the players. There are people who haven't quit and decided to choose one of the new Lees. There are also people who only keep playing because they've already invested so much time into the game that they don't want to quit now. There are also people who actually still enjoy the game and try to find the positives in the situation, but they tend to be drowned out. This is a good snapshot of people's opinions during the initial events. The EAP system still isn't great, but apparently there have been some tweaks in the number of AP and gold required to complete an episode, at least in HSL. The limit on the amount of AP you could collect was removed. Another thing that brought a little goodwill back is that B-Move released spin-off episodes, set in HSL for the guys that didn't come back in UL. They gave them away for free for a time because of everything that's going on with COVID. But they haven't won the fan base back. Not by a long shot. The game since. I don't have as much knowledge about the plot, having not played it myself in 2 years, but I sometimes pop into the forums to find out what the state of the game is. UL ended after episode 20 and Love Life, LL, follows Candy and her Lee's relationship a few years after graduation. Here are my main takeaways for what MCL has become. 1. They doubled down on the sexual content. Episode 9 of UL involved a NSFW sex scene that once again split players into a camps of love it, hate it, or would at least like some warning this was in the game so they could skip it. The issue of not getting illustrations unless you choose sex continues. I haven't played it myself, but there seems to be a lot of criticism that the sex scenes are basically really poorly written smut. There are several more of these types of scenes and illustrations in UL and LL. 2. They're probably never going to bring the guys back or fix the EAP system. It's been 2 years and hopes are slim. 3. People really care about this game and want it to succeed. It was never a masterpiece or the best Otome out there, but the characters and story was fun and the community made it a website you wanted to spend time on. So that's a rundown of the drama around my candy love that's been going on for the last 2+ years. Is there a moral to this story? Maybe it's to listen to your fanbase and that adding smut won't solve your story issues. Will anything come out of this? It's hard to know, but I keep hoping to see something change one day.
Anime conventions abandoned HobbyLobby can by ShoppyLobby. Throwaway account. As I wanted to make this post as anonymously as I could. Everything in this post is accurate as far as I am aware, though there may be some discrepancies, as there is a lot of misinformation about the whole situation floating on Twitter, etc. without much way to confirm/deny allegations. I've been going to anime/gaming cons for around 10 years now, and this is the most chaotic I've ever personally seen one become. This past weekend I attended one of the only conventions still consistently held in Oklahoma, Tokyo in Tulsa. This year's festivities have been plagued by troubles since early in the year when the organizers announced that the convention's usual venue is under construction, and the location it will be held at will have to change. Tulsa doesn't have many large-scale event spaces suited to holding anime conventions, so this sparked some worry and dissent within the general con-going community. The con eventually announced its venue to be the Stony Creek Conference Center in Broken Arrow, which is a suburb of Tulsa. Though new, the venue is very small, and really didn't look like it could hold all of the attendees, as well as vendor space, artist exhibitor space, and panel spaces. More hotels were added with the promise of more convention spaces being announced as time went on. Convention space additions added to the anxiety by being beyond walking distance from the main venue. Main events is to be held at a larger venue about a 7-minute drive away from the main venue. Artist alley and vendors on the other hand is supposed to be held at a school campus about 6 minutes in the other direction. Convention staff assures attendees that there will be disability-accessible shuttles to transport people between event spaces, and all goes relatively quiet until 2 weeks before the convention is meant to take place. Allegedly someone on the school board/involved in allowing the convention to use school property found out that Tokyo in Tulsa participated in the local Tulsa Pride Parade, as they do almost every year. This school board member was upset by this and apparently tripled the amount of money they wanted to allow the convention to hold its vendor space on school property. The con, not being able to pay this, had to look for a last-minute, available option. This option came in the form of an empty, under renovation, former HobbyLobby building a 10-minute drive from the main convention space. Desperate and out of options, the con staff moved forward with this new, but certainly not ideal, plan. Thus begins the outcry. Many artists flocked to Twitter to complain that not enough notice was given of a venue change. People began to realize how far the artist and vendors would be from the main convention space, while others insisted the new space was given a shot. The con's first day arrived, and with it, our first look at the vendor space. The HobbyLobby, being in the middle of renovations, boasted extremely inadequate lighting, which led to artists bringing their own portable light sources and inconsistent air conditioning, where standing or sitting in one spot could be almost unbearable in a heavier costume but breezy and cool under event output. Shuttles to the separate venues, advertised to come every 10 minutes, were only coming every 30 minutes. Con staff assured dissenters that a solution was being worked on, but didn't say much else. Outcry continued on Twitter as pictures and video of the vendor area spread online. People at the convention's social media directly calling for compensation and refunds, and demanding that they do better. One Twitter user, also an artist exhibiting at the convention, was extremely vocal regarding the situation and began to organize a list of artists at the con so that they could gain support outside of the convention to compensate, and make sure their costs were covered. This same artist made joke tweet about sneaking into the artist alley without a badge or shopping pass in order to spend your money on artists instead. That tweet, despite being a joke, apparently constituted some breach of contract on her behalf, and caused con staff to remove her from the convention Saturday evening and not allow her to exhibit for the last day of the convention. This incident led to a mention on a local news broadcast. Despite kicking her out for saying something of a similar ilk, the convention seemed to have decided that Artist Alley and the vendor hall would be free entry/no badge required for the last day of the con. There were many other issues with this con this year, but it being dubbed HobbyLobby Con was by far the biggest and most talked about problem of the weekend.
Flashlight's the most tasteless flashlight ad ever and one of the hobby's most controversial companies by Precogvision. The flashlight hobby is relatively drama-free, so it's quite rare to see a company as controversial as Claris. Claris is a mainstream flashlight company based out of China, and most of this stuff actually happened a while ago. You don't really need to know any other background information about the hobby other than that to understand why they have the horrid reputation that they do. If you're in California, you may recall seeing a news article a while back about a man who was shot 8 times after checking on a neighbor's house. On November 25, 2018, Claris made a post on their Facebook page advertising one of their flashlights. The only problem was, they linked said article with the caption, verbatim, "Things will be different if he were carrying a tactical flashlight with one-touch strobe function. It can quickly disorient the danger and save a life." Top that off with the following shameless plug for buy the most popular tactical flashlight here and get 15% off. Amazon link here and you had the most tasteless ad in flashlight history plus a recipe for disaster. As you might expect, there was an uproar. This was a flashlight company trying to capitalize on a family's grief and a Good Samaritan sacrifice. Claris was immediately put on blast by the flashlight community on both r/flashlight and Facebook. It wasn't until a whole 15 hours later, though, that they finally took down the post and issued a public apology. But even then, the apology seemed lackluster. "We have taken the appropriate internal disciplinary actions at Claris to ensure this type of behavior is not tolerated nor repeated in the future." There was also some further dissent between r/flashlight and Facebook flashlight enthusiasts, with the former surmising that the latter were shills when they readily accepted Claris' apology. With this whole incident eventually swept under the rug, Claris faced yet another PR nightmare when they decided to axe warranty support on some of their flashlights. Namely, those that were purchased from dealers selling below manufacturer's advertised price. I should mention that warranty support from overseas flashlight manufacturers is notoriously bad. Most require you to ship it back to China, untracked and at your expense, which often ends up being more than the cost of the flashlight itself. Many flashlight enthusiasts found this decision to be absurd, that is to say, punishing innocent customers and effectively cutting off some of the biggest flashlight retailers. It also didn't help that they hilariously misspelled one of the retailers' names in their statement. Once again, after facing swift backlash, Claris backed off their initial harsh stance. You'd think by now that after the first horrible ad and the map fiasco that Claris would have learned their lesson. Nope, think again. When the Hong Kong protests were going on, Claris made their way back into the limelight with this product photo. It said, verbatim, "As overwhelming performance Hong Kong police force had chosen XD21X plus we are the only supplier in this special time." XD21X is the model name of one of their flashlights. Follow this with "Wish Hong Kong in peace," something often said by the pro-democracy side, at the bottom of the ad and you had a double-toned F ad. Ignoring the horrible grammar and spelling inconsistencies, this ad had a surprisingly mellow response. I can only surmise that by this point the flashlight community wasn't even surprised by Claris' antics. Where's Claris today? Well, they're still around as far as I can tell. But they definitely don't have as much traction as they used to, and I don't think they'll ever live down some of their PR nightmares. They've managed to stay out of trouble the past 6 months, but who knows how long that'll last. And there you have it folks, a play-by-play of one of the flashlight hobby's most controversial and tasteless companies.
Video games EVE Online shows one bright-eyed player that life isn't always fair. By Tobacconist. EVE Online has been discussed here and other places before. But the quick refresher if you've never heard of it is, EVE is a sandbox-style multiplayer that has a completely player-driven economy and atmosphere. There are very few rules, making a game sometimes feel like a consequence. Losing a battle or getting scammed can set you back months of real time. There is also a community which can become real-life friends and make it hard to leave. Back in the day, I was human resources for a semi-large group of players, known as a corporation. My job was to check out new applicants to our group, quell unrest amongst teammates, and help newbies acclimate. Jobs like this often become more of your time in game than actually enjoying the game itself, and can lead to excessive burnout. After 4+ hours a day of playing a game where I did administrative work, put in for the good of my corp, and sometimes had fun, I eventually called it quits and won the game. But there was one time a newbie didn't quite fit out ranks. I was leading a newbie fleet where me and a couple other experienced members would take a group of new players out and teach them how to fight. In this case we camped down a gate, which is a little like waiting for someone to walk around a corner then jumping them. A certain new player wasn't ready for this level of flagrant assault. He told us all to stop it, that we were attacking innocent people in a game where getting caught is your own fault. I took him aside in a private chat. He stood to his morals, I give him that. I tried to tell him that it was a game of opportunity, where it's either kill or be killed, and that he signed up for this. I also gave him the chance to just leave and go somewhere less focused on PvP. Instead he made a stand and told us if we were going to kill them, we'd have to kill him too. Which would have been at least meaningful if he wasn't in such a tiny ship. We ended up blasting him, which gave the other rookies great experience. In fact, we were able to pin him down while they learned how to lock on. At the end of the day, I think we had some young kid who had their head in the right place. EVE Online isn't a good fit for that kind of person.
Magic: The Gathering. Wizards of the Coast hires an outside writer to work on Magic novels. His latest book pulls the plug on a popular and much-teased ship by seemingly retconning a major character's sexual orientation. And the writing's not great either. By Vodis. Apologies ahead of time if I get any of these details wrong. I mostly just play the card game and I've been trying to piece together what's going on with the lore. So, Magic: The Gathering is mainly a collectible card game, but they've been putting out novels and short stories based in the Magic multiverse since 1994, the year after the game came out. Over time, the story has focused in on a group of planeswalkers, people who can travel between planes using their spark, called the Gatewatch, sometimes known in the fandom as the Jacetus League, since the blue magic planeswalker Jace is the Gatewatch's de facto leader and arguably the game's main character at this point. Planeswalkers all use different colors of magic, and the Gatewatch's main red planeswalker is a pyromancer named Chandra. Its main green planeswalker is an elvish land/plant/earth mage named Nissa. Over the past 3 years or so, the writing team for Wizards of the Coast, the company that makes Magic, has been teasing the hell out of a Chandra, Nissa ship in typical will they won't they fashion. Because the red/green color combination is known as Gruul among Magic players, Gruul being a barbaric clan that stalks the rubble and ruins of the city plane of Ravnica, this ship is often referred to as Gruul Friends. Now, depending on how you read the past shorts and books in which WoC's writing team has teased Gruul Friends, you could make the case that it was one-sided, or at least that Nissa was too uncertain of her feelings to want to pursue anything more than platonic with Chandra. But it was made reasonably clear that Chandra was crushing hard on Nissa. It was also hinted that Chandra, or Nissa, or possibly both, had a thing for the Chad of the Gatewatch, Gideon, a white magic-using soldier planeswalker, to the point that some fans were shipping any combination of those characters, or even all three. In other words, Chandra was, fairly unambiguously, bisexual. Or possibly pansexual. Then, several sets ago, as I understand it, WoC started contracting some of its magic fiction work to writers from outside its main writing team. Enter Greg Weisman. He writes a tie-in book for the Magic set War of the Spark, in which the ancient dragon planeswalker Nicole Bolas, pretty much the biggest bad of the entire Magic franchise, or at least tied with the Phyrexians, invades the plane of Ravnica and draws a ton of other planeswalkers there so he can kill them and harvest their sparks for power. The card set had this super dramatic trailer that was trending on YouTube for a while, featuring the Gatewatch's black magic necromancer planeswalker Liliana. Most Magic fans were pleasantly surprised to see their favorite card game receive a moving, film-quality trailer like this, as previous trailers had been in the style of motion comics with semi-cheesy voiceovers and were not nearly this impressive. The first War of the Spark book got mixed reactions, with many folks not caring for the way Weisman presented a lot of the characters. Then on November 5, the sequel was released, War of the Spark, Forsaken. And in this one, Weisman's handling of the popular Gruul Friends ship is. It's not great. He basically tosses it out the window by retconning Chandra as straight. Here we have respected lesbian magic judge April King's reaction, with the relevant passage from the book quoted. Notice the not-so-stellar quality of the writing. And here's the response from the Magic subreddit. Yeah, nobody is really digging this. Magic's senior creative designer Doug Baer, who apparently had nothing to do with letting this unceremonious bi-erasure retcon see publication, since Watt contracted Weissman from outside their in-house writing team, had this to say. You can tell he can't be super direct about it since he still works for Watt, but everyone reading his post knows what he's referring to. Michael Yi Chow, a bi man and former member of Watt's Magic writing team, weighs in. He is not pleased. Other queer former Watt employees have also given their 2 cents. Now, as something of a Gruel Friends shipper, I love a good poly ship, but Gids plus his Gruel Friends is a no-go now due to Gideon making a heroic sacrifice at the end of the War of the Spark. I am obviously disappointed by this turn of events, but pretty much everyone agrees it wasn't beyond reason for Watt to let that particular ship die. It's the handling of it that's the problem. Everyone who was even casually following the storyline around the release of the Amonkhet set knows it's just not plausible to say Chandra had never been into girls at this point. It comes across as pretty blatant by erasure, and given Watt's generally positive track record when it comes to queer and minority representation, it's hurt some feelings. Even some Chandra/Gideon shippers have been unhappy to see Gruel Friends go down like this. And let's face it, Weissman may have done good things with Gargoyles once upon a time, but even compared to the honestly mediocre quality of a lot of previous Magic fiction, Weissman's writing is just not up to the quality you want to see in a published novel, especially given that Watt specifically contracted him as a professional writer from outside their already established in-house writing team. Posts in the Magic sub calling for Watt to declare Weissman's books non-canon are receiving hundreds of upvotes. Update: The Professor, one of the biggest names in the Magic community, has posted a review of the book. He doesn't care for it. Update: Nerfwire posts an amusing spoof of the controversy.
Guitar That Time, a slip of paper sent a forum into meltdown mode. By gaporpaporpjones. This one won't be as extensive as I'd hoped. The forum threads involved were all nuked from orbit years ago. I pieced together what I could from the remnants of follow-up threads and what I recall happening. This incident was kind of a watershed moment for guitar forums. It was the point where you either started paying attention to or walked away from. The gear page. Guitarists already know this place. The gear page is the biggest collection of cork inspecting, fart sniffing, over-moneyed lawyers LARPing as musician on the internet. This is the place where you find threads about which $4,000 boutique guitar should I take to my praise and worship band gig on Sunday. This is the place where a guitar can be the best thing ever on Monday and in the classified section because something better came along on Wednesday. This is the place where people will jack off all day about how Dumble amps are the greatest amps ever, then jack off all night about which amp Dumble made was the best. No, I don't mean which model was the best. I mean which specific Dumble made for a specific player was the best. This is the place where reason and sense disappear. This is the place where fun goes to commit suicide. Largely because the moderation is goddamn horrible, but that's another thread. Suffice it to say that unless you're white bread milk toast McWallpaper paste 3 you'll probably get suspended or banned pretty quickly. This should tell you the kind of people that manage to stick around for any length of time. The op. I've located a follow-up to the thread in question and was able to find the username of the person that started the shitstorm, but it appears to be related to his real name, so I will not be posting it here. Op will suffice. It started somewhat reasonable and, taking Op at face value in the following thread, somewhat tongue-in-cheek. Op had purchased a guitar from the Fender Custom Shop. For anyone new to musical instruments, Fender makes guitars. They make a frickin' lot of guitars, at every price point. No, I mean every price point. Their cheapest instruments in their Squire line can be had for $100 at times. On the polar opposite end of several spectra you have the Fender Custom Shop, which makes the exact same guitars but charges $5,000 for it. Okay, they're not the exact same guitar. But then again, they are. You see, the Fender Stratocaster has remained essentially unchanged since its inception in the 1950s. Sure, there have been changes in neck shapes, materials, pickups, hardware, every possible combination, but the inherent Stratness of the Street is always street. Even street-shaped guitars from other makers are judged by how stratty they are. Stratitude is unwavering, even at bargain bin Indonesian manufacturing prices. That is not to say that a street can't be more street than another street. Far from it. A master-built, built by one guy, custom shop Stratocaster can be a 5-figure guitar. The materials, the workmanship, it's all top tier. Not $10,000 there as far as I'm concerned, but then again I'm not. Op's guitar wasn't $10,000, but it was around the $4,000 to $5,000 mark if I remember correctly. Op got his custom shop guitar and found it lacking in the playability department. If I remember correctly. Like I said, nuked from orbit. I'm having to go off the memory of a 10-year-old forum post from some place I visited mainly to gently troll, so keep in mind that details will not be exact. Anyway, Op felt something was a bit wonky, so took his guitar to his trusted repair guy, some guy, at the noted guitar dealer he purchased it from to see what was up. After some digging, some fumbling, prying, poking, and prodding, repair guy noticed something weird going on at the neck heel and popped the neck off. And there it was. The scandalous device upon which our entire endeavor is predicated. The shim. Leo Fender's most lasting and important contribution to guitar building was the bolt-in neck. While other instruments had removable necks, none were as simple and straightforward as two slabs of wood screwed together. It seems obvious in hindsight. As good as it is, however, there are problems. One of those problems is wood is still alive. No, you can't plant the neck and have a maple tree next year. What I mean by alive is that wood is in a constant state of flux, absorbing and releasing moisture. High humidity and heat will cause the wood to swell. Cold and dry temperatures cause wood to contract and crack. Neither of these is a good thing, but if you keep a happy medium, all will be well. But that happy medium is not the same for any two pieces of wood, and every single piece of wood will absorb and release moisture at a different rate. Neck joints can, over time, become misaligned simply by trick of existing. When this happens, it may be time to shim the neck. That is, you put a small piece of a thin material like cardboard, wood, or sometimes plastic into the area where the neck and body join together to correct any fit issues. As little as 5 mm difference in the height of the neck heel can make a guitar completely unplayable, or turn a disaster of an instrument into the finest thing you've played. Shimming a bolt-in neck is something that you simply expect to have to do over the years, and you're happy if you don't have to. But this was different. This wasn't a 50-year-old closet case. This wasn't a road-worn Mad Max-looking motherfucker. Oh no. This was a brand new Fender custom shop guitar. And this would not stand. From what I remember, the thread actually started innocently enough with Op posting to ask if anyone else with FCS guitars had them come shimmed from the factory. Several people with these multi-$1,000 guitars, including people that had several of them, chimed in saying they'd never seen one in any of theirs, and they were shocked that such a thing would come from the factory. After all, this was the Fender custom shop. They're like Jesus, but guitars, and with a way longer than 3-day waiting period. Some back and forth happened, and finally Op contacted Fender customer service to clarify if using shims was something done at the factory, if so why, and if not, can I have either my money back or a guitar that isn't pre-fucked? I do not recall the actual customer service response because this was about the time that we get the appearance of Fenderman. Fenderman, as he shall be known, was the head of the Fender custom shop, and he descended from the Alder Mountains, across the maple forest, over the nitrocellulose valley, and into the thread like a long wet fart at a funeral. One that didn't come from the deceased, anyway. Thus spake Fenderman, we do not use shims. Op is wrong. There are no shims here. The dealer put it there. The repair guy did it. No shims. Again, from memory. I may be dramatizing a bit. Shims are abomination. The using of shims is wrong. The gun is good. Zardos. Okay, so they don't use shims. So why is there a shim? It's the dealer's fault. There is no shim. What? That is not a shim. It is a piece of paper. I don't know why it is there. It is not a shim. But it's a shim-like object, and a shim accepting locate is not a shim. Shit. Okay, Fine. It's not a shim. It's totally a shim. Everyone knows it, and by this point with that response the thread had in the course of a couple of days become internet guitar nerd legend as well as a total shitshow. Shim memes shot around the world. Threads were posted about what wood was best for shims. Other threads about the best shim for worship were bandied about. Good fun was had by all. Except Top, who had basically just been told he and his repair guy were complete idiots that didn't know shim from shinola. Not gonna lie, I don't have any kids but I'm checking to make sure I'm not pregnant after making a boomer rastad joke like that and I've had a penis from birth. Op chimes back in. Would you kindly then explain what it is? Fenderman knows not. The dealer put it there. Bad dealer. We look at their contract. So now Fenderman is throwing noted guitar dealer under the bus and saying that they had to have taken this brand new custom shop guitar apart and installed a shim for apparently no reason, to the detriment of the instrument. The shitstorm continued. And it continued. And it went all Donnie Darko Tangent universe, then the universe collapsed and that movie sucked. Then the thread hit the post limit. And a new thread was started. Then another. By then and, if I remember right, there were 4 separate threads each with 100 plus posts regarding the shimness of the shim that wasn't. Some of the more virulent of posters were banned or suspended. All other threads about this incident were purged. Then all was silent. Then it happened. A light in darkness. A pale rider approached. Fenderman returns. After a short period of time with no news and no activity after Fenderman had gone off to investigate, he posts this to a new thread. A formal apology to Op, some dude and the staff at noted guitar dealer. In my hasty response to an online forum posting, I regrettably made some false assumptions and the impact of my position has unnecessarily and unfairly called into question the credibility of noted guitar dealer and a loyal and passionate customer. The Fender Custom Shop Quality Assurance Team and I are looking closely at the matter to make a fully informed determination. Quality is our highest priority and it is our continued commitment to create the world's finest guitars. Once again to some guy and Op my sincerest apologies. Fenderman. Fenderman got in trouble. As had been found out already by this point, through the combined effort of custom shop owners on the forum that were willing to take their necks off. Fender had used shims in custom shop builds if they were needed for a very long time, and still do to this day. There is literally no reason not to unless you're a cork-inspecting fart sniffer type and tones escape out the 5mm gap at the edge of the neck pocket. Even though these instruments are brand new they're still susceptible to the whims of humidity. But by refusing to acknowledge that he might not know something, by sticking to guns that had already shot him in the foot, Fenderman pulled his metaphorical pants down and showed his allegory to the world. It took a lot of balls to come back and issue a blanket no reservations apology to all parties involved and Fenderman won back a ton of respect for doing so. The aftermath. Memes. All the goddamn memes. So many shim jokes. To this day. All of the shim jokes you could imagine. Things calmed down for a few hours then everyone was off to figure out which guitar to sell so they can fund their amp gas. Which is not the same thing as the funeral fart. The gear page itself is a bit of a meme, being home to a bevy of the most ridiculous individuals to ever grace an internet forum with their guitar opinions. I mean, this isn't a drop in the bucket compared to Tag. Tag knows tone. But that story is a ways off. I'm going to post stuff here regularly but please understand that a lot of this happened nearly a decade ago so I may not have access to threads to pull quotes from. Much of what does exist has had individual posts deleted either by the user or admins. The next thing I have coming up is a prime example. There aren't any quotes, just an overview of some things that happened which kind of sets up information necessary to appreciate the post I'll make after that. That one, unfortunately, does have some quotes from someone you probably know.
Happy planner stickers are a hell of a drug. By saddleshoes. Planner drama is a thing. It isn't something I'd have imagined when I got my first planner in like 2nd grade, a school-issued assignment book, but the world is a strangely beautiful and horrifying place. Anyway, paper planners have had a major resurgence over the past few years. There's brands you'll see frequently mentioned in planner community tags on Instagram like Filofax, an old-school classic, Hobonichi, a Japanese brand, and Erin Condon, pretty pricey but you can customize it. But among planners, no line does drama like Happy Planner does drama. To understand Happy Planner, you first need to know a little bit of the history of its parent company. Happy Planner, or HP, is manufactured by a company called Me and My Big Ideas, or Mambi. Mambi got its start in scrapbook supplies back in the 90s, and it's hung in there even as scrapbooking itself has changed. In 2014-2015, as craft stores were seriously downsizing their scrapbook sections, HP introduced the Happy Planner. It was at first exclusive to Michaels before spreading to Joann Fabric and HobbyLobby, then to other art/craft stores. There's a number of reasons why HP got so big and so popular, and they are, in no particular order. Familiarity. The earliest HP fans were women who scrapbook, primarily women in their 30s/40s with children, though there are outliers. I'm in my early 30s and don't have kids, but I love cute paper and making neat things with it, and they were familiar with Mambi from encountering the line at stores/online/at Crafts, a meeting where you hang out with your friends and work on your scrapbooks, an element of which carried over to planner meetups that happen now. Affordability. Well, comparative affordability. Planners can be expensive. One of HP's closest competitors is the Erin Condon Life Planner. If you buy one of those on its own, it's $55. A classic Happy Planner, the most popular size, roughly the same size as the ELP, is anywhere from $27 $32, but if you play your cards right, get a sweet coupon or head into your craft store of choice when they have a sale on planners, you could score one for as low $15. Availability. You don't have to go online to get an HP. Well, if you want you can, but it's a trip down to Michaels/Joann/HobbyLobby/Walmart to get one. Customization. This is, by and large, the biggest draw. Happy Planners are disc-bound, meaning that the pages of the planner are on plastic or metal discs with paper you can take on or off the discs as you like. So you can add or remove things at your leisure. Erin Condon planners, by comparison, are spiral-bound, and while they do have the option to change covers, you can throw in some filler pages if you say, need to add a shopping list or want to jot down some meal planning ideas. You want more paper? You can add more paper. Hell, you can buy a punch and add non-HP paper to your planner. Hate your cover or rings? Put on new ones. Want to take out all of January cause you bought the planner on sale in February? Go ahead. As if the customization wasn't good enough, you get the bonus, and, by and large, one of the biggest causes of drama, of stickers. HP comes from a scrapbook family. Of course there were stickers. While other companies have stickers, HP has sticker books. They're usually $20, can also be bought for far less with coupons, and have hundreds of stickers, some practical, little asterisks for bullet points, to purely decorational. There's a whole subsection of HP called Happy Planner Girls, and these change yearly and are in limited runs. So basically by the time you're done planning and adding stickers, or adding stickers and planning on them, you have a scrapbook without pictures or a really cute but boring diary or journal. So with that said, what seems like something benign has become a mess, because humans are incapable of just liking things and letting other people like them. There's been some planner drama, but I'm mostly unaware of most of it beyond HP versus LP before 2018. I finally succumbed to the call of the HP near the end of last year in just enough time to witness the sticker apocalypse. What happened? HP does several releases during the year. Usually there's a summer release, with planners for students and teachers plus 18-month planners running from July of one year through December of the next, and then one in fall, for the 12-month planners for the coming year. Sometimes there's special releases, and last December, right after Christmas, there was one that was only sticker books, each with a unique style. Like, there was a wellness one that was exclusive to Walmart that focused on self-care and mental health, one called Free Spirit with lots of crystals and stars and jewel tones, and the one with mason jars and wood panels was called Farmhouse. The majority of HP fans congregate on Facebook and dig because, again, The target audience is women in their 30s and 40s with kids, and that's where a lot of them hang out. I don't know where the first rumblings of the surprise sticker drop started, but someone on IG posted a photo, then the Planner Girls and FB started posting to HP groups about these new stickers. People lost their minds. There were reports from multiple groups that as soon as stores were stocked with the new stickers, less than an hour later they were all gone. You could go to buy/sell/trade groups later that day and find someone selling 10 of the same books for almost twice what you'd pay in store. One group member recounted seeing a woman at a Michael's in Atlanta walk in with reusable shopping bags and walk right out the front door after swiping every new book. Rumors went out about a few arrests. And then there were people placing special orders for specific books only to have them cancelled once the stock ran out. Planner Girls were pissed. Like it hadn't been bad enough that two of the most popular HP girls from fall, Super Mom and Miss Maker, mom-themed and craft-themed, sold out, but people were all but committing minor crimes and driving 50 miles away just to get stickers. I'm pretty sure that Mambi wasn't thrilled about the mayhem too. You see, HP has people from the company monitoring some of the groups and IG for marketing purposes. This move's probably helped them reach new potential customers and also helps them to stay in the loop as far as what the people like/don't like about their company. That said, I think HP seeing the chaos from this release affected later ones, including the current one, which is causing a fresh round of drama because of course it is. It's time for the HP fall release, and with that comes a new round of HP girls and new stickers. This may be the biggest launch of sticker books with a single release. Insiders, oh yeah, there's a HP Street team called the EHP Squad, and for a year they represent the company and get sneak peeks of the new products, etc., have hinted that there may be as many as 37 new sticker books released in the coming weeks, some to match the girls and some that have been highly requested, pet stickers. Stickers dedicated to just all 4 seasons and Christmas. More functional rainbow stickers. But the biggest cause of drama most recently is going on Facebook because of SKUs and pictures. If you've never worked retail, a SKU is an item number that stores/brands use to ID a product. If you have a SKU specific to a store, you can sometimes place a special order for it on the website before the e-item's posted. Right now, a certain FB group has members who got their hands on the SKUs for the new HP stuff and posted them exclusively to their group. Meanwhile, other people including members of this group, have been finding the new products in stores before the official release date, and posting pictures of their sticker hauls on Insta and FB like you do. Because of the clusterfuss that was the last huge sticker drop, HP reps have allegedly sent a few of the IG accounts that had posted photos of the stickers cease and desist notices because they don't want a ruckus to start before the bits per second/d people rush in to grab everything and make money off of it. Then, when those same pictures made their way to FB and members of the group where SKUs were posted made some veiled comments about not having to worry about the rush because they'd already special ordered their stickers, the other members of the groups were like, hey, so, what's the SKU? Help a girl out? And the others, having seen this and posted photos of them holding the brand new stickers, replied, LOL no, before going to their groups and talking about how mad the other planner girls were. So far I've seen a couple of threads in various groups locked or frozen because of sniping, and the new releases are slowly rolling out countrywide, and in a few days there will soon be wailing and gnashing of teeth because the pegs at ACMA are bare. And that's not even covering the wank about the squad and some past members of it, people freaking out over a preview of a spiral-bound planner that may be coming out soon. We like that HP isn't airing countdown, or even the debate over whether or not you like planner stickers that look like people versus the reaction to the guest designers.
Ukulele Facebook groups are 100% pure distilled insanity. By partyontheobjective. Introduction. The humble ukulele. I started playing the ukulele well over a year ago, and for me, the idea stemmed from my love for the sea, which I talked about in not one, but two, other posts. Since those, I managed to sail through the Magellan Straits, BTW. I sailed around New Zealand and picked up sailing on a proa. Fascination and admiration of the Polynesian sailing prowess lead me to appreciate their culture as a whole, including the music. Also, a ukulele is very portable and easy to take on a boat. And, this is my first musical instrument, and the skill floor of the uke is low. Said low skill floor will be important later, I promise. Anyway. In times of YouTube, picking up an instrument is easy. There's a multitude of online courses, websites, teachers, tutorials, both free and for a fee. Me, being an anal retentive redacted sourpuss redacted, I need to learn everything I can about the subject at hand. In this year and a half that I've spent with my ukuleles, I've waddled through many books, websites, articles, you name it, on the history of the ukulele. I've studied all I could dig up on tone woods. Everything on everything concerning ukulele. I've visited countless music stores, many meetups, and a couple of luthiers, and tried a lot of ukuleles. All of this, so I would know what I'm talking about. I've also joined a lot of ukulele communities. Shout out to my Discord buddies. You know who you are. I know you're reading this. 3, mostly on Facebook. Currently, I'm in 7 such groups. All but one are absolutely insane in one way or another. I also managed to piss someone off in all but one of them, for daring to have an opinion that goes against the grain. You see, most are run by people who suffer no challenge of their way of thinking, and are very generous with either bans or straight-up arguments, and promptly have meltdowns. Also, there's a whole lot of gripes I have with the community as a whole and their attitudes, and I would gladly regale you with a rant or two provided there is an interest. But for now, these 2 stories are but a few I've got. The happiest place on earth, Oregon else. This happened before my time, so I only know of this from several reputable sources, but the echoes and aftershocks are felt to this day. Hushed whispers and shades sound this very large group like flies sound a dead and bloated cow carcass on some field. Which is what this group really is these days. Dead and bloated. I got pulled into it by a friend when he spammed me with invites to literally every single uke group he's in. But it was a big, prominent, active group once upon the internet. It thrived, with many people active being prominent players, luthiers, promoters, festival organizers. And then Karen, not a real name, became an admin. You see, Karen had a vision, conviction, and drive to reforge the group to her liking. And what she liked was really dull. She was adamant that the ukulele is the happiest instrument on earth. That everyone who plays the instrument has to be permanently happy. Everyone has that aloha spirit about them. She also had her opinions on how the ukulele is easy to learn and is, in fact, magical. The group was to be the happiest place on earth, and to achieve it, she will cut her nose off to spite her face if she wants to, damn it. One day, shortly after becoming the admin, in the middle of the night, she banned every single person who dared to voice an opinion different from her own. This happened to include the most experienced and famous players, all the luthiers, the promoters, the festival organizers, and generally, everyone who ever had any experience in the ukulele community as a whole. She also deleted all of their posts. She gave no explanation to her actions, instead just dismissed the concerns of people who remained and promptly banned them as well. By now the news of her batshit craziness started to spread, and many curious people started to request the membership to the group just to see what's going on. She refused all of them and preemptively banned them for good measure. She then closed the group, told everyone that all the banned people were trolling, and it's time to move forward. A new set of rules was put in place, effectively turning the group into a bunch of Stepford smilers, to this day even towing the line, or being less than perfectly cheerful is a guaranteed ban hammer. I managed to narrowly avoid it on a couple of occasions because I didn't argue with the staff themselves but rather some boomers. I only stay there for the drama, really. The lengths people go to in order to veil their passive aggression is astounding. Great job breaking it, Karen. All your base are belong to us. This story is nothing new, really. You will recognize shades of Facebook cult from the waist training drama, and also the Burando attachment from the Lolita fashion drama, But this is the drama that finally broke me and prompted me to write this whole post. This concerns not one, but two Facebook groups. Two most prominent Facebook groups in one particular language that is not English. They are so full of misinformation, bad advice, straight up stupid people, and one shop. On the surface, they are not associated with any ukulele shops or luthiers, and their rules are pretty much the same, banning the e-advertisement of your business. Do you think this is respected? Nah. On top of that, both groups have the same people in it, the posts double most of the time. Most of the drama comes from people just being stupid or cheap when it comes to buying their first ukulele. Yes, I'm sure you will find a good quality solid top tenor electroacoustic 450, and unwilling to do even the most basic amount of research, such as typing stuff into the Google search bar. But this is not about that. This is about the Uke Shop of Horrors, not a real name. You see, the Uke Shop of Horrors owner noticed early on that social media presence is the best advertisement, especially in a rather small market full of inexperienced people. As in my country, the ukulele is only beginning to gain popularity. He created several sock puppets, inserted himself into both groups in question, and started to promote his shop with abandon. Mods in both couldn't really do anything about that, believing it's just happy customers talking about their great experience. And so it went for a while. The owner of the Uke Shop of Horrors finally dropped all pretense and started to cheekily post ads from his own account. By now everyone was so used to seeing the link to the shop they really didn't blink. And by then, the owner created a cult surrounding him and his shitty ukuleles. He hardly has to do the advertisement anymore and has enough pull to get people banned if they voice any sort of negative opinion on his shop, him, or his business practices. Oh yes. It would not bother me as much as it does, except he only stocks ukuleles that are generally considered crap to middling everywhere in the world except in my country, thanks to this fucking guy. He charges a lot for them too, and claims they are all checked and set up. That's why they're more expensive than they should be. I personally know that this is false. He checks about 1/10 of his stock I've seen and held duds he sold. He constantly pushes people to get bigger ukes, they are more expensive. He gives terrible advice to beginners. And he pushes one certain brand really hard. The brand is gaining some traction thanks to sponsoring a lot of YouTube teachers, musicians, etc. and cutting deals with shops such as the Uke Shop of Horrors. And I don't trust it. Never held a uke from them that didn't have something off about it, or straight up didn't fit the specs provided by the manufacturer. It pisses me off. Some people, especially if they're proficient in English enough to seek out other advice, are starting to wake up. There was a wave of mutes or bans on both groups not long ago. There were people who dared to say something negative about the Uke Shop of Horrors or undermine the owner's authority. But I'm afraid that as long as people will continue being lazy and or cheap, Uke Shop of Horrors will reign supreme on my country's market. I'd leave both of the groups. It's so frustrating, seeing people being lied to like this. But I feel like a couple of people with advice better than bigger uke is better can actually do some good in the local community. Edit, Silver. Thank you, stranger. 3. Edit 2, Double Silver. Thank you so much. 3.
Nerf/Dart Blasters DRM for toy darts, the Nerf Ultra 1 by Foxhound 631. I'll start off by saying this is definitely outgoing, as the drama is happening over a product that hasn't even been released to the public yet. So, Nerf blasters. Most commonly seen in the hands of your 8-year-old cousins the world over. But what may surprise you is that there's a rather large community of teens and adults that play with them too, and like any competitive community, people are always looking for new technology to get a tiny bit of an edge over their opponent with their equipment. There's a whole other side of the hobby where people build and modify their own blasters and darts, but to keep things simple I'm gonna be solely talking about off-the-shelf equipment, stuff that can be bought in stores or online. Let me start off by introducing our main company in this, Hasbro, and their product line, Nerf. They've pretty much always been considered the industry leader since their first blaster in 1991. They make solid quality products that are very reliable, but they're pricey. Given equivalent blasters from a few different companies, the Nerf offering is going to last the longest and be built the toughest, but it will also cost the most. But here's where the drama comes in: they're losing their edge. I could give a few examples, but suffice it to say Nerf is definitely getting outperformed by cheaper blasters today. They may break down a little sooner, and they may be made of cheaper or lighter plastic, but the end result is simple. For about the last 4 years, other brands have been getting better range than Nerf blasters, at cheaper price points. Now let's look at darts. The standard dart in the hobby is an 0.5 inch by 2.9 inch dart with a rubber head not wider than the foam body. This has been the standard since the Nerf Longshot was released in 2006, and now many brands make their blasters to be cross-compatible, so their darts will work in Nerf blasters, and Nerf darts will work in their blasters. Nerf darts are the highest quality and will last the longest, but they're just not very accurate. And in this hobby, the two most important things are range and accuracy, and off-the-shelf Nerf blasters have been falling short of that for a few years. So let's just recap Hasbro's shortcomings. Their blasters and darts no longer have a performance advantage over other brands, and they cost more. Their response has mostly been to get pissy about knockoffs and push back with media campaigns about how their darts are higher quality, safer, and better. Marketing doesn't change the fact that they're losing this one. Recently, Dart Zone, a competing brand, unveiled their Dart Zone Pro. It's a blaster that's pretty much designed from the ground up to be the blaster hardcore hobbyists want. It throws out range and accuracy like no off-the-shelf blaster we've ever seen before, because it uses newer tech that modders, hobbyists who modify their blasters to improve performance, have been using lately, within the past year or so. Hasbro, on the other hand, has been using the same systems since at least 2006. What will Hasbro do to come back from this? Will they finally improve on their products to give hobbyists the performance blasters they want, or will they continue to whine about how they no longer have a functional monopoly? Boom. Segue to the last couple weeks. A new blaster's slowly leaking through the firewalls. It's going to have a new kind of dart. It's going to shoot further than anything we've seen before. And a couple made their way to people for early review. It's not great. For starters, it doesn't seem to outperform blasters we've already seen on the market. But it goes downhill from there, specifically regarding the darts. Remember when I said the half-inch dart is the industry standard? Most blasters fire them, they fit in most blasters. This new blaster uses a completely new dart. It's not cross-compatible with any other dart or blaster, and the blaster has some sort of DRM feature, to keep you from using other companies' darts. It feeds from a rotating drum, and if it detects a non-nerfed dart, the drum will simply skip that dart chamber and move on to the next one. So this new blaster has extra tech in it, that you have to pay for, solely committed to keeping you from using knockoff darts in it. And Nerf-branded darts are expensive. It's here that I have to actually start throwing those annoying numbers on the screen. If you buy knockoff half-inch darts in bulk, you can get them for under $16 for 1,000. That's less than 1.6 cents per dart. Best price for official Nerf half-inch darts is around $12 for 75. That's 16 cents per dart, 10 times the cost of knockoff darts. These new, DRM lock darts, will be $10 for 20. That's 50 cents per dart. And this new blaster won't accept knockoff darts. Additionally, given the blaster's features and performance, it's probably worth around $20, maybe $25. It's being sold for $50. There's a couple more issues, which I'll just rattle off as bullet points because I've spent way too much time on this already. The new darts appear to be made of a different foam than usual, and this different foam is infamous for being brittle, when you need a rather pliable foam for darts. The new darts are a different size from existing darts. Nerf and other companies have made many improvements in dart technology over the years, but they've always kept the dimensions the same so that they're backwards, and presumably forwards, compatible with all the existing and future blasters. The whole advertising campaign for the new blaster seems to be half-assedly plagiarized from the Dart Zone Pro ad campaign. If I've interested you enough to watch a video about it, here you go. I'll be hanging around in the comments to answer any questions. TL, Doctor, what does an industry leader do when the competition has started to catch up? clutch their pearls and alienate their customer base by moving away from industry standards that they created.
Witchcraft Hexing the Moon by alyssarcastic. First of all, I'm sorry to anyone who may be offended by this being on HobbyDrama. I know there are many who practice witchcraft as a religion, and it's not my intention to be dismissive of anyone's beliefs. There are also many who practice subsets of witchcraft, like tarot reading and astrology, as a hobby, and it has a pretty significant online community, which is why I think it fits here. Also, someone posted this in the Hobby Scuffles thread, so you can see some comments about it there too. Now, on to the drama. The TL, Doctor version. Public knowledge of this rumor comes from this popular Twitter thread, which I recommend reading. The short story is that a rumor started a couple days ago that a group of witches on TikTok decided to hex the moon. Those who practice witchcraft were not happy about it, since the moon and its associated gods are extremely significant in witchcraft, and everything kind of exploded from there. Some are concerned about the worldwide consequences of hexing the moon, some are trying to calm everyone down by explaining why the hexes either won't work or won't have an impact on anyone except the hexers, and some are fanning the flames by trolling and claiming to hex the moon even more. The longer story. There are two intertwined communities at play here, WitchTok and WitchBlur, witches on TikTok and witches on Tumblr. These are basically people, mainly young women, who practice witchcraft. Some choose to identify with specific forms of witchcraft, like water witches, crystal witches, forest witches, etc. They share spells, tarot readings, aesthetic pictures, tips for practicing witchcraft such as how to cleanse crystals or how to use different materials, among other things. As I said earlier, some practice witchcraft as a hobby or just think it's cool to read about and dabble in, and some consider it their religion. There are also some who make their living on witchcraft by selling tarot readings, resources, and talismans. Here's a good article about the WitchTok community. A couple days ago, a rumor started spreading that witches on TikTok were trying to hex the moon. The earliest videos I could find were from 4 days ago, and they were all just people upset about the rumor. I haven't actually been able to find any legitimate sources of anyone hexing the moon, which lends credence to some believing that this is a hoax to mock the witchcraft communities. Regardless, the flame was already sparked and it spread like wildfire through the WitchTok community. There are hundreds of videos now, mostly from 2 to 3 days ago, of people upset that the moon was hexed. Their specific concerns seem to mainly revolve around Artemis, the goddess of the moon. The claims are that she's upset by the hexing, and since she's also the god of health and healing, people don't think it's a good idea to piss her off during a pandemic. Some are also claiming to be affected by changes in the moon. The flip side of it is Artemis' twin Apollo, the god of the sun. Some are arguing that He's going to react against the Earth to protect his sister. /u/AwesomeMarvelous corrected me that Apollo, not Artemis, is the god of healing and diseases. Since an internet flame war can't just be one-sided, there are also some people in the WitchTok/WitchBlur community who are mad that people are mad about the hexing. They think it's disrespectful to claim that humans, especially those new to witchcraft, could be powerful enough to affect celestial bodies or deities. They want the rumors and hysteria to stop. And then on the third side, there are people like this guy, who are trolling the whole community. This man in particular even got quoted in a Cosmo article, even though it's painfully obvious that he hasn't actually done anything. His trolling is working, however, with someone even saying that he started this whole thing. He didn't. And of course plenty of people are just following the drama for entertainment. This is an ongoing situation, but at this point it seems like everyone is just rehashing one of the 3 perspectives I listed above, so I doubt anything new will come of this. Other links. BuzzFeed going over the original Twitter thread along with people's reactions. NY Post article with a quote from a professor of space exploration ensuring that nothing bad is happening to the moon.